What's up, everyone? What's going on? This is my Slammiversary 2015 pay-per-view review. Slammiversary was last night on pay-per-view. I checked it out. I ordered it. And I was on Twitter live tweeting it. Anyways, here we go. First match was a three-way triple threat for the X Division Championship. Title is on the line. New champion Tigre Uno defended against Manic and DJ Z. It was a fast-paced, really fast-paced, great X Division match. As I said, the title was on the line. Tigre Uno retained and is still the X Division champion. Tigre Uno wins. And I didn't predict this match because I didn't know this match was going to be on the pay-per-view. It was just added to the pay-per-view like yesterday. So Tigre Uno wins and is still X Division champion. Up next, you had Robbie E versus Jesse Goddard, his former tag team partner. They were formerly the Bromance. Where's my pick? I predicted Robbie E would win. No, I predicted Jesse Goddard would win. Jesse lost. Robbie E defeated Jesse Goddard. So Robbie E wins that one. I was wrong. Big deal. A lot of my picks were wrong, but some were right. Up next, after Robbie E defeated Jesse Goddard, it was a pretty good match for two former tag team partners going at it. It was a pretty good, entertaining match. It went on a little bit too long. Could have ended sooner. That's my only problem with the match, is it went on a little bit too long. Up next, I'll talk about the knockouts. Handicap match. 3-on-2, the Dollhouse. Taryn Terrell, Jade, and Marty Bell taking on the team of Awesome Kong and Brooke. I predicted that Kong and Brooke would win, and they did win. So the team of Kong and Brooke wins against the Dollhouse. Through the entire match, basically, Taryn Terrell, the Knockouts champion, was screaming and yelling at the other members of the Dollhouse. She was very angry with them, very pissed off, and she was screaming at them. I don't know how long the Dollhouse is going to last with Taryn Terrell acting like this, bossing them around, screaming at them. She is the leader. Obviously, she's the leader of the Dollhouse. She is also the Knockouts champion. I could see the Dollhouse breaking up within 1 or 2 months. Who knows? Maybe it'll go on longer. So, Kong and Brooke win. It was a good Knockouts handicap match. I enjoyed it. It was a good Knockouts handicap match. Up next, EC3 and Tigress took on the team of Mr. Anderson and Bobby Lashley. And I predicted EC3 and Tigress would win, and they did win. So EC3 and Tigress get the win. This Wednesday night, 2 nights away, EC3 gets his world title shot against Kurt Angle on Impact on Destination America. I'm excited for this Wednesday night Impact. I'm really excited for it. And EC3 hopefully wins the world title. And TNA does the right thing and gives him the world title. So EC3 and Tigress win. If I sound a little bit different, I apologize. Sound like I have a cold, and I do right now. I have a sore throat and a stuffed up nose, so I'm sorry and I apologize. but I wanted to do this video today. This match isn't in order, but I believe it's the second match on the pay-per-view, but I'm going to talk about it now. Bram took on Matt Morgan, the returning Matt Morgan. How long is he back for? I don't know. I think Matt Morgan's deal was only a one-time deal, one-night deal for Slammiversary. So Bram and basically Matt Morgan before the match got on the microphone and said, let's make this no rules. So it's basically a street fight. Matt Morgan and Bram was a street fight. Bram used a lot of weapons, got out a cookie sheet, hit Matt Morgan with a cookie sheet. What else was involved? Other weapons were involved. I thought it was funny when the Pope was on commentary with Josh and Mike TNA for Slammiversary. And then the Pope started joking, making fun of Josh, said, "There's your cookie sheet. Now you can't bake your cookies after the show." I didn't get that, but it was a funny joke. And Josh was saying to Pope, "What are you talking about? Why are you talking about cookies during this match?" It was just funny to have the Pope there making fun of Josh. Bram wins against Matt Morgan, and I predicted that Bram was going to win it. So a lot of my predictions, all of them, out of the 8 matches, only 3 predictions were wrong. So I went out of 8 matches, only 3 of my predictions were wrong. Up next, you had the winner gets to pick the stipulation for the tag title match on this Wednesday's Impact. I believe they're calling it Bell to Bell. Austin Aries took on Davey Richards of the Wolves. As I said, the winner gets to pick the stipulation for the tag title match. Austin Aries won. Aries wins this match. It was a great match. Very hard hitting. It was great action. Richards, Austin Aries was one of my favorite matches on Slammiversary. It was very, very good. Very entertaining. So then after the match, when Austin Aries got the win, he got on the microphone, Bobby Roode came out, and he said, "This Wednesday night, we're going to have," and the stipulation is, and obviously this was a joke, he said, "we're going to have a bra and panties match." And I was like, what the fuck? A bra and panties match? No thank you. I do not want to see 4 dudes in bra and panties. And 4 great wrestlers in a bra and panties match. Obviously, Aries was joking, and he said, "No. We're going to have a 30-minute Iron Man match. Best team wins it, 30 minutes. The Wolves versus the Dirty Heels this Wednesday night. 30-minute tag team Iron Man match for the TNA tag team titles. That will be great, and I'm looking forward to it." So, my prediction was Davey Richards, but Austin Aries wins. And that was a great match. Non-sanctioned or unsanctioned match. Magnus versus James Storm. This match was a straight up brawl. It was a street fight. You had a lot of tables. Tables were involved. A lot of tables got broken. Beer bottles were involved. Broken beer bottles. A couple of spots I enjoyed during this unsanctioned match between Magnus and James Storm. To start off, they started fighting on the outside of the ring. James Storm put Magnus through a table. Magnus had a giant red bruise on his back. And later, in the ring, Magnus power bombs James Storm through a table outside of the ring. Later, James Storm gets a table out from under the ring, sets it up on the outside. Magnus comes out, puts James Storm on the table, jumps off the top rope, misses. James Storm gets off the table. Magnus misses an elbow drop, and crashes through the table. Table breaks in a million pieces. That was an awesome spot. Felt bad for Magnus. Looked like it hurt like hell. His hip basically landed on the floor after he went through the table and missed the elbow. He lands on the floor on his hip. That had to hurt. Today, I'm sure he's sore. So that was a great spot. The finish was very entertaining. Haven't seen a finish like that ever in a street fight. Definitely WWE would never do this because they wouldn't have two guys break beer bottles over each other's heads. Even if the beer bottles were fixed and weren't real, and I'm sure they weren't real, but they looked real when they smashed them over their heads. Anyways, even if they're gimmick beer bottles, it was still awesome. The finish was Magnus and James Storm both had beer bottles in their hand. They were running at each other, and they both smashed bottles over their head at the same time. Magnus falls on his back. James Storm, very lucky, falls on top of Magnus. 1, 2, 3, James Storm gets the win. So that match, I really enjoyed. And before it, you had Magnus do an interview backstage and basically say that a lot of people say a lot of bad things about TNA, but that it has been his home for 6 years. And then he says he kind of said this is like his last match in TNA, because I read online that Magnus and James Storm asked for their releases and TNA gave them their releases. So they're done with TNA. That's pretty damn depressing, but it happened. And I don't blame them. If both of them are probably fed up with how TNA is doing business, and maybe both of them didn't get paid a couple months back pay. Maybe they didn't get their back pay yet. So I don't blame them for leaving, because they could work anywhere else. They could work in Japan, England, ROH, maybe even NXT. WWE NXT will sign them and put them in NXT, and they can get their paychecks on time anywhere else but TNA, because TNA is in a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of trouble right now. They're not paying their wrestlers or their knockouts. I don't know if they did pay their knockouts and talent all the money, all the back money. I don't know. But I think it was 3-4 weeks ago I read they're having trouble again paying the wrestlers and knockouts, that their paychecks were late again. So maybe they got them, I don't know. But that is not a good sign. When you don't pay your talent on time, that is not a good sign. It probably means you're going to go under soon. And if they get kicked off and canceled on Destination America, they're really going to go under, because they won't have a TV deal. And I did read, if they don't have a TV deal in America, they're still going to get money from their television shows in other countries. They're still going to get paid. So I guess they won't go under. But they're not going to have a television deal in the United States. That's really bad for them. And they might as well be dead if they're not on TV in the United States. But they will be getting money still. They have TV deals, probably 2-3 years left with other countries, so that's how they're going to make money. But that's not going to be enough for them to survive and pay all their talent. And with Magnus and James Storm leaving in who else left? Gunner recently left TNA, and Samuel Shaw left TNA. Samoa Joe left a couple months ago, but he left. So a lot of people are leaving a sinking ship in TNA, and I don't blame them. They gotta get paid for their work. They're hardworking wrestlers, hardworking men and women that go in that ring and put on some of the best matches to entertain us fans. That you gotta pay them on fucking time. So I don't blame a lot of them for asking for their release and wanting to get out of a sinking ship. I don't blame them at all, but it is really sad to see. And this Magnus and James Storm, I just thought of this. Maybe they said that on TNA, and when James Storm was walking in the back, he went like this to all the fans and basically said goodbye. Maybe they're signed with Global Force Wrestling. Maybe they'll be back in TNA if Global Force Wrestling and Jeff Jarrett, whoever is backing Jeff Jarrett and Global Force Wrestling and giving them money, whoever it is, if they do buy TNA, I believe we will see Magnus and James Storm back in TNA, but maybe they'll drop the TNA name, and maybe TNA will become Global Force Wrestling for good if Jeff Jarrett buys TNA from Dixie Carter and her family. So I could definitely see Magnus and James Storm coming back in TNA if they're signed by Global Force Wrestling. And then King of the Mountain match. Main event. Last match to go on the pay-per-view was the King of the Mountain match. It was for the new title, the King of the Mountain Championship. The winner got a new belt, and basically it's an old belt. That belt was the old Legends Championship. Booker T brought the Legends title to TNA, I believe in 2008. I think it was 08 or 07, maybe even 09. Booker T brought the Legends title out of a bag, and it was a red belt, and it was the same belt as the King of the Mountain belt. And then later, after the Legends belt, it was also the TNA, very short-lived TNA Television Championship. Rob Terry held it for a while. The big muscle-bound Rob Terry. And I think Abyss held it right before they basically got rid of the TV title. So the King of the Mountain match. You had the returning founder of TNA Wrestling and the founder of Global Force Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett, the original King of the Mountain, in this match. You had Matt Hardy in this match. Going back to Magnus versus James Storm, I picked Magnus, and obviously he did not win, but he was my pick. Jeff Jarrett, Matt Hardy was in this. Eric Young, Drew Galloway, and Bobby Roode was in this. So five top guys in TNA were in this King of the Mountain match. And Jeff Jarrett, he's not a top guy. He's not even full-time anymore. So I wouldn't call him a top guy. He just returned. And Jeff Jarrett wins this. He won it basically because I believe they're going to start a storyline with Global Force Wrestling and TNA. They're going to start some storyline with the two companies. maybe their talent, Global Force Wrestling talent, will start showing up on TNA programming this summer and invading TNA. Who knows? I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with Jeff Jarrett winning King of the Mountain. I'm looking forward to what TNA has in store for us. So Jeff Jarrett wins, is the new King of the Mountain champion. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm sure it has to do with Global Force Wrestling and TNA being involved in an invasion storyline. Also, I think Global Force Wrestling and TNA already have a deal in place, and they're just not telling anybody. They're hiding it, and none of the wrestling news sites know yet. And nobody has reported on it yet and what's going on. The only reports I've read is that Global Force Wrestling may come into TNA and take TNA over, and basically TNA and Global Force Wrestling are gonna merge and come together. And I don't think that's a bad idea. TNA should get rid of their name, TNA. It's stupid. It hasn't helped them in their 13 years they've been in. 13 years they've been in business. The TNA name has not helped them. TNA has not done enough advertising that they're around. I mean, they could do way more advertising. They could run commercials of Impact Wrestling. They should run commercials every single Monday Night Raw and every single SmackDown, so people that are watching Raw and SmackDown see that TNA Impact Wrestling exists, because a lot of fans don't even watch them or care to, or they've given up on watching TNA because they're fed up with TNA. And I don't blame them, but I'm not going to turn my back on TNA. I'm going to support them until they go under. Maybe they won't go under. I hope they don't go under, and I don't want any wrestling company, no wrestling fan, as I said before, no wrestling fan should want TNA to go out of business. That's not good for the wrestling business. During the King of the Mountain, you had Jeff Jarrett get put in that penalty cage right away, real quick. Got put in it twice. Eric Young, Bobby Roode got put in it. Jeff Jarrett came back out, started kicking ass. You had Drew Gallows do a great spot, or Drew Galloway. I don't know why I keep calling him Gallows. That's not his name. I'm thinking of Luke Gallows, and Drew, his last name is Drew Galloway. So Drew Galloway. I'll just say Drew. Drew got up on the penalty cage, did a swanton bomb off of it, front flip off of it, took out everybody. That was awesome. And then Jeff Jarrett, as I said, he won the King of the Mountain Championship. And I'm sure this means we're going to get a Global Force Wrestling and TNA Invasion storyline this summer. So that was my Slammiversary 2015 review. It was on pay-per-view last night. The matches I most enjoyed were Magnus versus James Storm, Austin Aries versus Davey Richards, and Bram, Matt Morgan was good. It was pretty short. And I also enjoyed the first match, the Triple Threat X Division title match. Tigre Uno, DJZ, Manic, those guys worked great together. And King of the Mountain was good also. So I'd rate Slammiversary, I'd give it a 6.5. It was a pretty good show. I'm not going to say it was bad, because it was not a bad show. The only bad thing that really happened was they started technical difficulties after Magnus James Storm match. they basically had technical difficulties and the sound went out. Commentators could not be heard, so that was pretty awful when you're on a live pay-per-view and people pay, I think it's $40. People pay $40 in the pay-per-view and you have technical difficulties. That was awful, and maybe that's a sign that TNA is dying. Who knows? But it's good the commentators and the sound came back during the next match. It came back and they fixed the problems. So the sound problems only lasted probably 8 minutes or 10 minutes. Anyways, Slammiversary 2015, I enjoyed it, and it was a good pay-per-view. I'll be back tomorrow on Tuesday, and I'll be doing part 2 of the Year in Wrestling 1991 video. I'll be on Twitter tonight for Raw, all 3 hours, tweeting Raw live. So check me out on Twitter at TNA WWE Guy and at NXT WWE Guy. Have a good Monday, everybody. I'll be on Twitter. See you later on Twitter. Bye for now.